You spiral over texts, invites that never came. You compare yourself to girls you barely even know, and you beg for bare minimum from people who didn't even deserve access to you in the first place. But what if I told you you're in control? That all of this ends today, right now, right this moment that you finish watching this video. And if this video has found you, get ready to become the highest, best version possible of yourself if you follow through right to the end of this video. Now, what is a high value woman really? Beyond the keyword or the clickbait, high value as a person really just means somebody who emphasizes the internal world more than the external world of seeking validation. It is someone who moves with purpose, with alignment, and has their boundaries in place. I grew up on the advice that beauty is as beauty does. I also have a younger sister, and in both of us, she inculcated the importance of character, morals, values before anything superficial like looks, like intelligence, like money. None of those were important if ultimately you weren't a good person or you weren't a person of interest, a person of substance. You know that saying that don't chase butterflies but tend to your garden, because once you create a beautiful garden, the butterflies would automatically come to you, or if they don't, you end up with a beautiful garden. So I think that's what it means to be a high value person or a high value woman, where you're focused on your self-development, on your growth, on your betterment as a person. You are not swayed or you're not running after some external fulfillment or external desires or what the world is craving or chasing validation through it. So being high value essentially just means having purpose, cultivating peace, and having your boundaries in place, knowing that your time is worthwhile. If I could encapsulate it into 5 traits of who a high value woman truly is, the first would be an extension of what I just said. A high value woman is selective with her time. She knows time is energy and she's not for everyone, and that's exactly the point. Again, when I was growing up, sometimes my mom would tell me not to go for any and every party that I was invited to. And that's not because of being snobby or arrogant, but just because I should exercise discernment in who I'm choosing to associate myself with, where I'm choosing to spend my time, and how freely or accessibly is my time for anybody and everybody. You have to realize that your time, your space, your energy, they're sacred, and access to that must be earned. Now, second of all, being emotionally grounded and not reactive. What does this mean? Not being the first to succumb to gossip or drama or participating in all of that negativity. You don't have to fight online. You don't have to throw shade. You don't have to engage in conflicts. You don't have to prove yourself right. Respectfully remove yourself from situations and people who always, when they meet up, are talking about a third person. You have to insulate yourself from that kind of negativity, because that's what it takes and what it means to be a high value, a high frequency woman versus bringing yourself down to low vibration or like low frequency. Third is being obsessed with becoming your best self. A huge reason why the internet became obsessed with Shalini Pasi was because after a long time there was somebody who seemed genuine, who seemed mindful and respectful of her own values. She wasn't trying to demean anybody else or to say anything negative about another person. All she was doing was conserving her energy for her development, for her growth, for her happiness. And that's exactly the blueprint we need to follow. You have to realize at some point that detachment is actually peace. And it doesn't come from a place of some sort of selfish arrogance, but just about focusing on yourself before focusing on someone else or about what someone else thinks or how would they react. How would you react? How does it make you feel? And are you able to express that fully without feeling suppressed? I think no one apart from your parents or your partner would perhaps come and shake you up and push you and say, you deserve better, or you should expect more from life. So you have to ask, where am I stagnant? Where am I sabotaging myself? Where am I sabotaging my needs in order to say, please another person or to factor in their opinions before my own? Now, this one is tough because tunnel vision is not easy for everybody to achieve with all of the distractions we have in today's world at all times. It is almost something that may look crazy to the world, but it's like devotion to you. You have to become so focused, so devoted to your goals that you have no time, no energy to engage in any kind of negativity, back talking, backstabbing. Someone said something about you, someone said something to another person, someone treated you poorly, you have hurts and difficulties from the past. None of that will come in the way of you and your goals. Every day you try to get 1% better. You have to tune out the distraction. You have to create that focus for yourself. You can meditate, you can breathe, you can journal, you can do whatever you want that you think contributes to your life positively. But for the love of God, do not spiral. Do not think about your past and go into a loop. You have a future to build, and that'll only happen when you have your eyes on the prize. While you're chasing your goals, there might be some necessary sacrifices to make, such as letting go of some Netflix time, or maybe you didn't catch a movie, maybe you couldn't go to the mall, maybe there are some other things that are part of our relaxing or rejuvenating time that you have to let go of. But having said that, don't compromise on your essentials. And by essentials, I mean eating right, sleeping right, making sure you're getting enough exercise, making sure you're surrounded by the right kind of aligned energy and aligned people in your life. You can't be simply high functioning all the time to the point that you burn yourself out, or you let go of your healthy habits of resting, eating, and focusing on your mind body. Don't let go of that when you're juggling your goals, because overworking yourself is also a form of some sort of insecurity. As a high value woman, you shouldn't be harboring any sort of insecurities when you're trying to achieve your goals. Your self-worth shouldn't be tied again to another external feeling you're chasing. It can't be tied to status or money or superficial things like that. It has to be tied and so rooted in your self-worth, in your self-respect, in your discipline, but also your rest and the life that you're building in a healthy, more composite way. As we discuss the traits of a high value woman, you would notice that the mirror to that, or the low value acts that we do as people, are just the spitting image of the things we just discussed. And don't worry, we've all been there, but we don't have to stay there. So starting with obsessing with other people, you have to start by making yourself the center of your universe and attention versus a third person. You have to stop obsessing over what would the world think, what would the world say. It is your life. You have to stop being the victim of your own life. And if it is people you can't cut out, maybe they are very close, maybe they're really old friends, very close family, and it is hard to just walk away, then find a way to engage less. Or more importantly, instead of suppressing your needs, state your boundaries very clearly, state your needs very clearly, so that the relationship isn't one-sided and you're not the only one who's being walked all over. Now, this point is so important. We've discussed it so many times that it deserves its own spot, which is seeking external validation. You don't need somebody else's permission to love and honor and respect yourself. The moment you're waiting for somebody else to tell you what you should do or how you should feel or whether you're worthy or not, that's immediately when you lose your power. You can't outsource something as critical as that. Again, gossip, jealousy, drama are all low vibration, negative feelings and acts to associate yourself with. And you have to realize that jealousy often stems from us losing sight of our own path. We have to realize we're on our own path, we're on our own timeline, which is not the same as A, B, C, or anybody else's timeline. And we have to move with abundance. We can't think that if somebody else has success, if somebody else has beauty, then there is any less of it for us. And the moment we realize that, we would have less of a tendency to gossip or spread any kind of negativity. Manipulation and inauthenticity. That's the reason I say don't engage with people who lower your frequency or lower your vibration. Because what happens is, if you're around somebody who is manipulative or is playing these manipulation games or tactics with you, and you try to one-up them and you get further sucked into that manipulative game, don't do that. Don't play these games. Do not engage with people who bring your standards down. You have to stay away from things like being passive aggressive or gaslighting or like carefully maneuvering or masking or suppressing. As a high value woman, you have to come in with clarity of thought and action, what you want out of life, and see if the other person can meet you there. You can, of course, state and explain what your needs are, but if the person in front of you refuses to meet your standards or cannot respect your boundaries, then they must leave. And for that, you have to be willing to walk away when disrespected. And that strength to walk away only comes from when you've done the inner work to cultivate that level of self respect, self worth, to know that when your gut or your brain or your heart is telling you that you deserve better or that you have been treated unfairly, that you act on it instead of continuing to accept it. And what is the high value woman's way of being on a more regular or like a day-to-day basis? Here are some things that I can't recommend enough. If you're in a heightened state of panic, let's say it's after a terrible loss, or maybe you're grieving, maybe you have to go up on stage, maybe it's a presentation, maybe it's an altercation of some kind, where you can physically feel your body going into a state of maybe panic, maybe you feel like you're about to lose your cool, lash out, then there is this app called How We Feel with a way to check in with your emotions. And not only that, my favorite part is the breathing exercises they give you, which give you visualization plus instruction with different breathing techniques. And that can really bring you to a more steady or like a calmer state if you are in a heightened state. Now, this is for all those times when, you're feeling a lot of emotions, but on a regular sort of steady state, every day that looks not too bad and not too great, here's what you mustn't lose sight of. Keeping your mind and your values strong is also as much of a cultivation or an exercise, the way you have to continuously work out your body's muscles. So a good way to do that is to incorporate a meditation practice of some kind. You could meditate right in the morning, set the intention for the day, or you could choose to meditate at night to wind down before you sleep and express gratitude for the day that went by. Another really important pillar of my life has been praying and being religious, spiritual, whatever you may call it. But the point of this is to surrender to a higher power. And the reason that the surrender is so beautiful is because then you can trust in your decisions. You can trust that when you take the leap of faith towards your dreams, towards your goals, towards a higher version of yourself, which perhaps right now you can only imagine and hope to achieve, you know that there's someone who's taking care of you, someone who is making that happen for you, who's working behind the scenes. It is also a very strong way to find belonging and healthy. Maybe attachment is not the right word to use, but you feel like that is your constant, that is pure devotion. Now, again, equating, all the things we do for our body, which is rest, eating the right meals. Similarly, you have to be so mindful of what you consume, especially because we're bombarded with content. The moment we're opening Instagram, the moment we're opening YouTube, we're just seeing so much. So we have to pick and choose carefully what we're letting into our subconscious, what are we letting form our belief systems and patterns, because that really dictates how we see ourselves, how it forms our worldview, and how limiting or how expansive it can be in our beliefs and in how we act in life and how we show up in life. Another small but I think monumental habit, which I feel like is dying these days, is having a meal at the dinner table with your family or with your loved ones, being present, not having a form of entertainment playing in the background. And it is so tough on many days because there's work, there is sometimes you just like to decompress, but the value of that quality time spent in connecting with each other and actually coming together and spending time as a family, and moreover giving attention to your meal and what you're eating, is small but mighty. Now finally, here's something that I incorporated into my life early this year. So the start of the year, I started doing weekly reflection check-in. I've scheduled a 30-minute invite on my Google Calendar every Saturday at 9:30 p.m. And I've done this through different stages of my life in some shape or form for sure, which is kind of regularly tracking my mood and how I feel, just because sometimes when we zoom out and we look at life, we feel like we've maybe had more good days than bad, and that just helps you feel confident in your decision making and not beat yourself down too much. In that reflection, it is a mix of questions about alignment and integrity, and I'm happy to read it out to you, and then I can just add it in the description if you'd like to set it up. It takes me anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes to fill it out every Sunday, and it just sets my intention for the rest of the week. And this is especially useful if you're someone who is self-employed in some way, or if you're a creator, or if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're just somebody who's trying to take more control or charge of their lives, their moods, their overall direction, or perhaps even wanting to pick up something in addition to what they already do. The more you can check in with yourself, the more you can be in tune with who you are, what you want, self-awareness, the more you can guide your decisions in your life in the way you want. So some of the questions that I have on my weekly reflections are moving in alignment with my values, moving with intellectual honesty and integrity, looking at the bigger picture, aiming as high as I can, and so on. It's about 8 to 9 questions, and I'll put them in the description. At work, a high value woman shows up with preparation. She is present and she is passionate. She is high energy. In friendships and people dealing, a high value woman is not afraid to outgrow her old friendships or move past them. No need to hate, no need to revolt, but you just evolved as people, and that's okay to move on from. It is not your job to change people. You can only change yourself, and you know how hard that is. So if someone betrays you, if someone leaves you, if someone does something wrong, as Mel Robbins says, let them. You will never lose someone who was never aligned to your frequency in the first place. Don't be afraid to stand by your truth and what you think is right. Because at the end of the day, it's you. You are your home. You have to live with you. You have to sleep with your thoughts. You have to wake up in this beautiful body of yours. So you can either have your mind against you or with you. The choice is entirely yours, and every decision, every little action that you take is reflective of that. So in essence, being a high value woman isn't about being perfect. It is not about making no mistakes, but it is about living in your truth, living in your alignment, to becoming the highest version of yourself, to commit to your healing. It's in how you walk away from situations or environments that are not good for you. It's when you choose yourself, when you choose peace over negativity or drama. Every decision you take to raise your standards, to move your life forward by the principles, values, and morals you've set aside for yourself. Every time, instead of betraying yourself, you stand up for yourself. You build that house of self-worth and self-respect brick by brick. And ultimately, it leads you to a high value woman or the highest version of yourself. So keep building yourself up to that version and then protect it with all that you got. And to conclude this video, I'm going to set the intention for the week, and I also encourage you to do the same in the comments. Let's start by how we're stepping into, or how am I acting as my highest self this week. So this week, I'm stepping into my high value self by, and now I fill in the blank, getting more disciplined with my time and my energy again, activating that tunnel vision. That's me. I'd love to know your intentions for the week in the comments. I reply to all of them, so please do comment. If you have a friend who's also going through her evolution era, send this video to her, discuss it. I think girlhood can also be a catalyst for, if done right, a catalyst for your growth, for your best self. If you can hold each other accountable, if you can push each other without any threat, without any competitiveness, without jealousy, you all can blossom and grow together. So here's to the sisterhood, all of the young women who are watching this, becoming all high value women. And that's something that I'd just like to underline again, that the previous videos may have been on what to wear and how to present yourself, but a huge part, or I think the most important part, is the mindset. While the way you present yourself may make the first impression, a lasting impression or a connection, which is what is truly worthwhile, is made when you invest in your mindset, in your character. So if there's anything that you take away from my videos, let it be this. That's all for this one, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.